we're having fun with this. And on a serious note, we're also very pleased to have the Rotary Club hosting and sponsoring, I should say sponsoring this as we're hosting, and our guests who are joining us, who have been obviously instrumental and are featured as well in the film. And we have our director with us. So I'm going to let Lucille Sorrentino of the Rotary Club, who brought this to us, speak for a moment and do some introductions. But I thank you all everywhere for attending, and come on over, Lucille. Take my place.
Okay.
On the screen.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. I am a member of the Rotary Club, 12 years. Supposed to sit? Am I sitting?
Yes, so you can get yourself on screen.
All this technical stuff.
Here you go.
First of all, before we get started, I definitely have to thank Linda, Jean, and Seth, wherever you are. He's in the clouds, I guess, because this technical stuff is way beyond my comprehension. But thank God they've got it going, and we have people on Zoom. We have our audience here, and then we'll have questions. I just want to briefly say, I'll tell you about our guests in a second, but I want to say the Scituate Rotary Club is very proud to present this along with the producer and our guests today. You know, the Scituate Rotary Club is 54 years old. We've been around for 54 years, but the big number comes from Rotary International, which is from 1905. So they're around 118 years. We're doing something right. The motto is service above self, and it is probably one of the largest worldwide organizations. So we're very proud to have the Rotary present this along with our guests. I want to say the Rotary has 7 areas of focus. And one of the areas of focus is why we're here today. That is literacy and education. And the topic is Alzheimer's, which is a somber topic, but it's a reality. We have 2 guests that are, there they are. We have Judith Mayer and Debbie Wolf, 2 sisters that are in the movie. The family has four siblings, I believe. So they were to be here today, but one is not feeling well. We understand that, but we're grateful that you're here. And so after the film, they will come on and do a small presentation, and then we can have a question and answers, not only from the audience, but from our Zoom. So I want to welcome both of you. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. I know it's an effort to be here, but another word about the producer and the director of the film. Also, I think Judith Mayer is also a producer. John Michalczyk is from BC, and I think how many years did he say he's been here? A long time in BC. How many? 50 years. And John is also.
I came when I was 5.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Tell us another one, John. Okay. And anyway, he's also an honorary member of our club. We met John through a very dear and wonderful fellow, another Rotarian, Dr. Mike Johnston, and that's how we met John. So Professor Michalczyk. So we've had a nice relationship, and I want to tell you a little bit about our professor. He is the co-director of film studies, but he's the chair of Fine Arts Department over at BC. He's and that includes art history, and filmmaking. He's written numerous books, many productions, and his themes have always been a focus on medicine, on ethics, human resources, and human rights, and social justice. He's also received many distinctions, among them regional Emmy Awards. He's been a mentor to many, many, many students over the years, and he's our friend. It is my pleasure, and I'm very honored to present to you Dr. John Michalczyk.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So my journey, with Alzheimer's, right before I introduce, how I got involved in this film of great interest to me, was about 15 years ago. We were doing a film on social justice, displaced persons in a Jewish DP camp in Germany, and music. And we were to interview a woman who survived all this, who was a great singer, and she performed. Unfortunately, she had to for the Nazis. And then after the war, she performed for, various groups, veterans, displaced persons, German communities. And then she sang at the Jewish Museum in the Museum of Cultural Heritage, I think, in New York. And, we found her and we said, we're going to do this interview. So the whole crew drove down to New Jersey, and we were to speak about, her role through this music. And we did not know that she had Alzheimer's. We were never told this. So it was, a very difficult interview because she could not remember the second part of a sentence. And then all of a sudden, her sister, her daughter said, "Mom, why don't you sing one of your songs?" And sure enough, she sang a song, "Ik wil Alheim," in Yiddish, "I want to go home." And that opened my eyes to this incredible person, incredible history, and she was no longer there mentally, but in her soul was the music. And that inspired us, and we used that as part of our film, Displaced. Now, with this film, when Judith asked me, about how we could do something like this a good number of years ago, I was very much interested. And I said, how could we do it? We don't have any budget, but we have equipment and we have resources. So I found the best filmmakers, and Arlo Perez especially was able to finish up the filming, and then he moved to Nova at WGBH in a very professional position of creating film, including in Antarctica. And then we were stuck. We didn't have enough funding to finish the last part. So I found one of the best editors and a former student, and he said, he doesn't have too much time, but he'd be glad to help with this endeavor that Judy proposed. So he finally was able to find enough time to do an incredible job on this film. So, it was really, the perseverance of Judy and her sisters, including Debbie right here, that, we were able to finish the film. And then he fine-tuned it so that, we now have, a very good film that is able to, look at it and look at Alzheimer's in a very personal way. And, the individuals who came to our program when we showed it at Boston College, and Debbie was there, they were very much taken by it, mainly because, which I didn't know at that time, they had been caregivers, still were caregivers for family and friends and partners who suffered from Alzheimer's. So I think our initial showing, was, very well received. And then, Judy showed it in, was it Long Island, Judy, maybe?
East Hampton.
Yeah.
And Hampton, Long Island, yes.
Yeah. So, it's a film that really grips you because it started in the process of, not after someone, has passed away from Alzheimer's. And that was important because Judy, offered, especially for the editing, all of the visuals that we needed to make it a go. And then, we found Patricia at, Boston College, and, the doctor that we introduced. And it made a very, very positive impact on the people who first saw it. So, I'm really glad to be part of it, but I think Judy and her sisters are really, the movers and shakers. As I often say, I'm the brains behind it, but I can't do all the physical things that are necessary. I know how to get archival footage, assemble things, but it was, the generosity of someone like Arlo Perez and Nick Schiffman, and then Bobby Clark, who really helped pull this together for us to create a document that I think is extremely important. And I'm glad Rotary is sponsoring, this program today, and hope that, it could be seen by many people, because the story of the four sisters is incredible to tell and to share with others who are going through the same experience, either as caregivers or suffering from Alzheimer's.
Is there a childhood memory that you remember about your mom?
I just think that, I'm a mom, and I think that I always want to be a mom because I have a great mom.
Speak all the time. We always said we're not going to worry about the phone bills. And we would talk about silly things. Well, what color were the tablecloths you looked at?
Each one of us related to her entirely different. And my experience was not Audrey's, not Debbie or Linda.
My mother and I have always been extremely close. She's my best friend, and so it's been hard.
She loved to play, so she would love to go out socially or go to a party and, again, get dressed and look beautiful. And she always did look beautiful.
It was a great childhood. There were 4 girls. My parents had a wonderful marriage. It was fun. It was always fun.
We'd tell her our stories from school, did homework next to her while she was sitting in the TV room all dressed in a dress and ready for my dad to come home.
My father worked very hard, but he came home and my mother was happy to see him.
My dad took pride in just writing all these captions, but I'll just show you my favorite. It says here, they tell me that love is grand.
My mother didn't work. She was busy taking care of us.
We would go to very expensive shops, and she would try on outfits that she couldn't afford. And we would just fantasize if she could own that, how beautiful her life would be.
She was adorable. She was like a pleaser and like a light bulb.
I did tell Audrey once, my sister, that I thought I was the favorite, and she laughed. So I guess we all thought we were the favorite.
We never argued, and that's unusual for teenagers and their mothers to get along, a girl and her mother to get along at that age.
I was captive to her humor and her style of speaking, which was very cryptic. She would use few words which I would pick up the meaning very easily because that was our code. You didn't have to fill in the blanks.
We were heading out to a really good restaurant. She was thrilled to go with us. Anytime you could call her at 9 o'clock at night out of bed and she would put her makeup on and go.
My mom was in charge, but in a way that it was fun for all of us.
4 girls around her doing homework and just being the perfect homemaker. She felt great.
She was there for us all the time. We were her life.
was a conversation we had maybe 5 years ago, and she made it seem as though she was about to share more with me. She loved to go out for drinks. She loved to go out for cocktails and get drinks. And there was a new restaurant that opened near her apartment that I had no desire to go to, but she made it seem like we would go and she would really tell me about something. She alluded to something like, I'll really share that with you, or you take me to that place for a drink. And, she was like a kid. She wanted to go out and play. It was really cute. So I went, and she wasn't talking about any of it. She just wanted to keep everything pushed down. You talk about the good things.
She started to confuse time, and it was 9 p.m. at night, and she was getting ready with her sunglasses in the evening to go to her dentist appointment. So she went to the dentist appointment, which she thought, was surprised to arrive that it was closed. Next door was a bar. For some reason, the bar was open. She didn't think about that. Went inside, was speaking to the people there and saying, I don't understand why they're not open. I have my dentist appointment. I think they just kind of dismissed her questions and gave her some answers, and she started to somehow put it together that she had the wrong time. Went back to her apartment, called each of her daughters laughing what a silly mistake she made.
She started to hallucinate. She was seeing things in the apartment. It was real freaky.
But she would call us and tell us about the people that were actually her plants. So in the planters, she imagined there were people. And to make her feel better, I told her one of them was her stockbroker. So she felt a little more comfortable because he was advising her on her money, and she felt safe that the stockbroker was living with her. But at a point, they started to make her frightened, and she didn't want to get undressed because people were watching her.
She'd call me in the middle of the night a lot, and Debbie a lot in the middle of the night. What time is it? What time is it? Why isn't it light out yet? Why isn't it light out? And how many hours do I have to? She couldn't. The days would go on forever for her, and it was exhausting for us too, because to be awakened every night in the middle of the night with your mother going crazy.
She had a hard time talking about something that she wasn't a part of, or hearing stories of something that didn't involve her. She became very inward.
She was like someone who was in a cage and couldn't get free. It was a side of her we never saw, because for the first time she entirely lost control of her own independence. So it was like someone trying to break out, break loose.
We didn't know what to do. There's no history of dementia in our family, Alzheimer's. We didn't know from this, and she was always so strong that you're in denial. And then I said, she was very depressed near the end, very sad, very just miserable, and none of us could do enough for her. And she'd suck the air out of you sometimes. It was so difficult, and we'd feel guilty. It was awful.
When I first talk about memory loss with families, I try to do it in very simple terms. I try to talk about what's going on with the parent, how they're reacting. I stay away from fancy nomenclature about dementia. I usually talk about it as just being different parts of the brain affected, so you're going to see different symptoms. And the pattern will change over time. My relationship with Jerry Kutnick is, I was a provider for her. I dealt mostly with trying to deal with her emotional reaction when she was initially placed in an assisted living facility. She wouldn't remember me from visit to visit just because she doesn't have any, her memory was gone. I had much more of a relationship with the daughters than I did with Jerry. Now she wouldn't know who I was.
Carol came to meet my mom and my mother. So I wanted her to see her in her home because she had escaped from assisted living. And she served us coffee, me and Carol, and served Carol's in a creamer cup instead of a cup. And she had earrings on and a bathrobe. I think she'd forgotten to get dressed. I mean, it was just so clear. But then we'd sort of push that aside and say, she's fine now. She's fine now. She wasn't improving. She would just act more normal on certain phone calls.
What's the next one? R-E, what's that?
Yeah, so
What letter's that? What's that one?
SBA,
R-E, what's that?
RSE, baking
Yep,
by the Hamilton skin.
yep. Baking,
it?
yep, exactly. Baking by the hammock skin.
Oh, all right, then she'll take me
Yep,
and they'll take her.
exactly.
All right, shall we go now?
No, not
Okay,
yet.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow. We will do it tomorrow.
We had 4 differing opinions. We talked by conference call for a year, regularly assessing where she was, where we think we should get to as far as putting her in our brother-in-law's elder care. We were fortunate to have someplace to take her, but it was a question of when could we take her. Were we being mean to put her away in a place that wasn't home? So we spent 1 year consoling each other, denying that she was at risk. And so it took a long time to accept reality.
She never wanted to be a burden. And it became clearer and clearer that she just could not live on her own. It just didn't make any sense.
We hired a woman that was referred highly, and it was a great thing in the beginning. This person became a friend, in her mind, a friend, and someone who would come regularly to visit and spend time having coffee, playing cards, taking her out to lunch. My mother would pay to take her out to lunch, and some of the sisters became worried that this person was manipulating my mother and getting money from my mother and taking advantage by going out to fancy restaurants for lunch. But it was really my mother's doing and influence. This woman wasn't doing that. At her party, her 90th birthday, we gave her a beautiful party, and my sister Audrey hosted it. It was gorgeous, and my mother's best friend was there, and we were very happy to share this big celebration. And we set out to have a film that we put together for her with pictures. Thought she would love it, but she couldn't even concentrate to look at it. And then at the end of the evening, she wanted to say something. We gave speeches, how meaningful these years have been, and what a wonderful, devoted mom she had been. And we loved her, and her grandchildren were there, and we sang her a song. One of the girlfriends was a professional singer, so it was very special. And at the end, my mother got up to speak, and she spoke of her caretaker as the most important person in her life. And Audrey, who hosted the party, felt devastated by being ignored for the gesture she had made, that all of us made, but I kind of took it in stride. The sad part at the end was she then began to believe that this woman was a man. And she began to feel she was in a relationship with her lover. And she was so confused why this man had to leave her and go home after a day's work. And so everything began to be very jumbled for her.
We didn't challenge her when we were kids. She was our mom. But I was at a doctor's appointment with her, and the doctor was talking more to me about her. You know, in the appointment, it was my mom's appointment, but the doctor and I were talking about my mom. That was very uncomfortable for my mom. She almost had a tantrum when the doctor left the room. Like, why are you talking about me? This is not your place. I'm the patient. And she was very uncomfortable with the role reversal.
It has an insidious onset, so if you say to the family or the patient, when did you start noticing symptoms, they'll say, oh, I don't know, maybe last year, maybe a year and a half ago. Having a conversation early on about what's going to happen is important. And it has to be done very carefully and skillfully, because in the beginning stages of dementia, the person is still themselves in many ways. And sometimes there's islands of preservation where social skills are maintained, or long-term memories are maintained, or love for a certain sport is maintained. Sometimes people can still play the piano perfectly and sing songs perfectly, but not be able to remember what they had for lunch. So introducing the fact that Alzheimer's is a progressive, irreversible disease, and that there may come a point where the patient or the person is unable to care for themselves, and they may actually be suffering symptoms that are distressing to them, like loneliness or fear or anxiety.
People usually describe dementia as having, and this is a broad generalization, 3 stages, sort of mild dementia, moderate, and severe. And the presentations are different in the different stages. In early dementia, you usually see some confusion and some memory loss, maybe personality changes. You get to the moderate stage, the confusion is worse, the memory is worse, and you start to lose ability to take care of yourself. ADLs, just activities of daily living. The severe stage, you become much more physically debilitated. You have a hard time walking more, you can end up being bedbound, prone to infections, and that can last for quite a while. It can be a long time course. They say 3 years to 20 years you can live with this disease. The average is about 6 years. But it's still, I think 1 year probably feels like 20 when you're dealing with your parent.
Those things became even more apparent. We rushed quickly to get her out of there so that she'd be under supervision in a memory care unit.
She's awake.
I'm not doing anything but leading the light. Do you want to close that?
Hello.
Hey, Marie.
Hi.
Good, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
What do you think?
She's talking away.
Hi, Mom.
How's everything going?
Guess what?
Nice to see you.
How's your day going?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you
too.
It's a busy day, right?
That's right.
You've been with Anne-Marie and you've had a lot to say.
No.
You're true to yourself then. You know what I brought you, Mom?
Yeah.
A sweater. Want to feel it? Well, you'll wait till later, then you'll decide.
Yeah. I'm sick like a doll.
I love you.
We all love you.
Yeah, I love you, Jerry.
Right, Mom?
Yeah. She's gone. I mean, I feel good to see her when she'll smile for a minute, but it's not her. Oh, but she does do she has little idiosyncrasies that Debbie and I see when we see her. That's amazing that people do these things even when their minds are gone. That they still have little quirks and little things you see that they are themselves. But it's just, it's just sad for the caregivers, the people, the family, the people that love them, that they're just fading away.
Sort of talk and then we walk away, and I don't want to call the older sister who gets the most upset and say, so are you sure? Are you comfortable with this? I don't want to do that to her. So we're just hoping that my mother will do it for us. Just because she can't go on any longer.
What is the last conversation that you had with your mom in which you acknowledge was an actual conscious conversation with her?
I don't know. I know a year and a half ago I was visiting her in memory care, and I was with Debbie, and she recognized Debbie, and she's talking, oh, Debbie, you're here, and she's talking to Debbie, and I'm sitting to the side, and because I don't want to overwhelm her, and she said, doesn't Anne-Marie look just like Audrey? And Debbie wanted to say, Mom, it's Audrey. She started to say that. I said, and I just sat there crying, just tears pouring down my face, because I thought, at least she won't be upset with me, because sometimes she would be frustrated that when are you here? When are you coming? How come your kids haven't been here? I thought maybe that was better, which just felt awful.
We don't want her to live like this. She wouldn't want to live. She doesn't want to live like this. But as long as she's not suffering, and she doesn't seem to be, she's medicated, not to the point that she's sleeping all the time, because we don't want that, but we just want her comfortable. But she wouldn't want this. And it's just sad.
Dementia brings up a lot of feelings in in the children. Frustration, surprise, anger, guilt, anxiety, a range of emotions. And I think in general, people think that they should have done more or they could have done something different that would have made a difference. I don't think that's true. The disease just marches on, and you do the best you can to cope with it. With Jerry, I think her family was frustrated with her in a way more so than I've seen with some other families, because she retained her spirit and her stubbornness. I mean, she was an incredibly stubborn woman, and I mean that in a positive way, about wanting to get back to home. I mean, it was impressive how much she pushed and pushed and pushed to want to go home.
What would you say would be what your mother would want?
My mother would want, she would like to take a pill and leave. But all she cares about is us. That is it.
It's really, really hard. I keep thinking about the fact that I should have eulogized her already, because how do you eulogize? She wants my husband to write her eulogy. And I keep thinking, what do you say about someone that's been gone a long time? It seems disrespectful to say, well, 5 years ago they were great at this. It's been a long time since she's been here. It seems like we just didn't do it because we just didn't have the time. This is the weirdest experience ever. And this is a family that was super close, and it's affecting me and my sisters a lot. My mother would hate that. She would hate that. Because she wanted us to be stronger and better. She had no family. She was an only child. And she was able to have 4 kids and girls, which is really kind of cool. We always have our own girly thing we can do.
I'm having a hard time kind of understanding like life itself, and then the fact that hers is so long, but there's no quality there.
How have the grandkids felt about the aging or dementia from seeing their mom?
They're freaked out. And they feel badly for me, which makes me feel good. They say, Mom, we understand this is so hard for you, it's so awkward, and then we have, I don't do this for me. And I said, of course you're going to. You're going to come see me. Don't. I said, I hope our generation figures this out, because this isn't good.
You have to have the patience, and you have to think back that, what this person has always given you, and it is an illness. It's a mental illness. And my mom, some of the things she does, she can't help it. And in her right mind, she wouldn't be saying or doing, some of the things she was doing before she was this profoundly affected. So just know that, try to hear things from where this person, this challenged person, is coming from, and try to be super patient, and I think tap into where your connections were before and try to bring that to them now.
Isn't there something we can do? Isn't there a medicine? Isn't there a cure? And of course that would be great, but since Ronald Reagan got Alzheimer's disease, millions and millions of dollars have gone into Alzheimer's research, and really not a heck of a lot of progress has been made. So there's actually a new paradigm now for research where they're saying, instead of focusing on symptoms when people get it, let's look at people who maybe are at risk for getting it. Someone who has a first-degree relative who has dementia, or someone who has risk factors like the ApoE4 gene, or someone who's maybe a little bit forgetful. They call it mild cognitive impairment. So like half of those people will go on and get dementia, and the other half won't. So what's the difference between those two groups? How can we get a handle on this? So with this new paradigm and with this new focus, they're talking maybe about a vaccine or drugs that could prevent the buildup of the plaques and tangles in the brain. So maybe it wouldn't be a cure, but it would give people 10 or 15 more years of healthy, functional life. So all of these things are on the horizon, and hopefully we will get an answer. But right now, as there is no cure, what it comes down to is good old basic nursing care.
The caretakers were so nice to deal with. They had such devotion and loyalty that I think I was surprised that people that are strangers or that are not family could connect, sometimes even better than family.
We cannot expect these Alzheimer's patients to conform to our rules. They're not in our world anymore.
I can kind of still access that connection we had back then. And I know that, I believe it gives her pleasure even now, and I can tap into her still being the mom and me being the respectful, loving daughter, and just showing that I so will always love her, and she was the best mother on the planet.
She's given me a lot of who I am, so I feel good. So I do have her. I always will have her. Even if it's sometimes what I learned not to do, to tell you the truth, that's not a bad thing. Because she did the best she could do. She really did. And I feel like I've learned a lot from that. And I do want my sisters and I, because we're getting older now too, and I want us to have peace with each other so we can, I want to make these, you got to take advantage of everything you can. These are the good old days, this moment right here that we're in.
When parents get older, the roles reverse anyway under normal circumstances, but now even more so. I mean, I have to, now we're all on our own. It's funny when you lose a parent, or you're about to, and you have no parents, you're next, and so you're responsible. You're the ones that have to be strong and deal with things. She's not there to bounce things off of, or so. Yeah, it is a role reversal.
It was tense. It felt awful because there's no good. There's no good in that, and I'm trying to personally learn because I want to save my children from this. I don't want them to do this.
I think about life being short and not to squander it. I think that's what happened. Life interrupted. We don't know when it can become short or when we don't have control. I think that's what's scary. The most scary part to me is losing control and seeing how my mother, who having control was so precious to her, the loss of it was devastating. So I feel that I just want to be in control and be in the moment as long as I can. Often concerned about her accessing the real me, and I think I would like some more time to hear her and what her authentic self would be and allow her to see my authentic self.
When she said to me, please, Linda, don't remember me like this, in that when she was better, not as bad, in the beginnings of her disease, she said to me, I don't want you to remember me like this. She just knew she was miserable and getting worse. I feel badly, though, when I think about it, that I never said, Mom, talk to me about how you're feeling. I know that your mind is not where it was. We need to talk about this. So now I'm thinking about this right now, that I never discussed that with her, and I should have, and I feel badly.
I love you. I love you. I don't always know what I'm doing. The hands are cold.
Because I was outside. It's okay. It's cold. It's a beautiful sunny day, but it is cold.
I love you so much.
I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom.
Okay.
Okay, we're a team, right, Mom?
Huh?
You don't have to cry.
Thank you. It was very, very powerful. And I admire your whole family. So I'm wondering if you could share some of your time or your time with your mom or your journey.
Okay, I guess I'll start first. I'm Judy. I have a cold, and I'm afraid if I don't jump in now, I won't have the energy. So I want to say that I've seen this a lot, the film, and each time I come away with something different. I know that we wish in the beginning, when we see signs of change, that we'll connect to people we love and sort of freeze the moment and connect and say everything and get everything out there, because we know the time is getting shorter. So I look at that again and think, I wish we approached emotionally a place with her that we didn't. We were 4 sisters, from 10 years from the very youngest to the top of the 4th, on the top of Linda being the eldest. And I think we each experienced it differently. And I note in looking at this again, how each one experienced it. We were together holding each other's hands emotionally, but each experience of the loss was different. Our love relationship with her, of course, has to be different. Child among each, for each child, it's a different experience loving a parent. And I think about how important the intervention of a caretaker is critical. You stay in the process the whole way as the caregiver's child, being the child of the parent, and you stay with them throughout this process. And I think that's key. But having someone you trust, helping our mother feel held and loved and cared for is the biggest thing to me as I think about it, because the children can't do that wholly for the parent, not alone. And we were lucky because there were 4 of us in it to do the heavy lifting. And when Debbie, the youngest, wasn't there, the other one was there, and then the third one was there, and then I was there. So I guess we pulled the weight together well. And it doesn't always happen in every family that the weight is evenly distributed. It was, in our case, as best as possible. But again, that caregiver made all the difference to me. Loving her, being there daily, being in the elder care, because they can't give, or memory unit, they can't give your parent the love that one-on-one gives. So being able to access a good caretaker is key. And again, if you start to see changes in a loved one, I think it's great if you can get to them sooner than later, because at a point they won't be able to connect at all. And all you can do is stay on the same page with them, let them know you respect them and love them, and not challenge them, because they can't really understand what you're saying, where you're coming from. You just want to be there where they are at that moment and have them feel your love and support is what I think about as I see this film I haven't seen for, I guess, for 3 months now. So that's what I'm feeling this time as I see it.
Thank you. What a brave woman that she did not want her children to see her like that. You could pick up on that, you know?
Really?
Yeah, definitely. That's because she was so independent in her time.
Absolutely.
Any questions from the audience? Linda,
Tell us if we
Jean,
have.
would you feel the questions?
Yep. Anyone have a question? Comment?
Did you say they do have genetic testing that could determine whether a person is predisposed to Alzheimer's?
Jean, would you repeat that?
Did you hear that?
Judy?
We could not hear that. No, but you could repeat it.
Yes, please repeat it.
Do they have genetic testing that could tell if a person was predisposed to Alzheimer's?
And Lucille or Linda, if you could repeat the question for us because you're closest to the mic, that'd be great.
Hi, the question was whether or not there is actually genetic testing that could uncover a predisposition. Did you want to have that, or
Isn't she? Yeah. Who is this addressed to?
Alice?
No, anyone.
Oh, anyway, yeah, everyone's.
My husband recently, oh, go ahead.
No, was that addressed to me? I couldn't hear. I have a little echo on my computer. So Judy, why don't you respond?
I don't know that I can efficiently, but I think there are ways to test for it. I don't know if it's a genetic testing, but we can be looked at early on for a tendency to develop Alzheimer's. And I think it was mentioned in there by the doctor that it can be observed early on, the indication for Alzheimer's. But I know because of my husband recently, it's very hard when early on, when you're taken for tests with doctors that are examining for Alzheimer's, they can't really for sure identify it early on. They can see certain patterns, but they have to do CAT scans and a lot of testing and still don't know where you are in the process or if indeed you have Alzheimer's. But as far as early detection, I think there are tests available. And I was hoping to have that out for this meeting today, but I'm still going to follow up with some current statistics on where we are today and how far we are away from the cure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe someone on Zoom has a question. Is that Dietrich?
Yeah, I do have a message here that I can jump in, that I'm unmuted. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Because okay. And that is a question actually to that includes a question to the Rotary Club itself, which would be, given what the resources of Rotary are, with 34,000 clubs in the world and covering the whole globe, and actually through its, Lucille, you mentioned the areas of focus, one of which, and where this applies to, which disease prevention and treatment, access to research, to the relevant areas of research, what we can do to establish within our community, for example, just to start at that level, as well, established within our community as a resource to people that are getting to that age where they are worried about getting Alzheimer's, to learn about the events that sort of make them to get that disease, and where they can turn to slow that process and have it addressed. You know, is there some community program that we could develop to make that available to our residents?
Great idea, actually.
Yeah. Just a moment. We're going to have Linda answer that question or respond.
I didn't hear it in a nutshell.
What are the resources?
Yeah, you have a doing something. Well, I mean, that would even be my question, I guess, to the daughters, as far as, did they feel they had access to resources, or was it a difficult process to find those resources? And did they feel the support? Now, we do have a social day program now that we started this year. We are not the first, but there are still too few, so that we know that it is important to those who have found us and have that need. We are providing a couple of days of respite a week with some nice activity-based community opportunity.
Okay.
And that's one thing that we've been able to do. But
organizations. Yeah.
Well, just to interject, I mean, Rotary and our club in Scituate actually was very prominent in establishing that a few years back. We are tied in, for example, with Mass General, specifically on research on Alzheimer's. So if this is sort of something that we could become more focused on, what it is to receive that information coming in on an ongoing basis, and somehow make it available in a format that through whatever organization within Scituate, we could make it available publicly so that the community has access to that information.
The Rotary Club that process, like I was sort of spacing out.
Dietrich, I believe that's something that maybe can be talked about at one of the upcoming Rotary meetings. And we'll be sure that it's on the agenda. And then we can reach out to Linda, possibly to Mass General, any other resources within the town. And we can get back to you on that.
That would be great. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Okay.
if I could mention something, you know, with many of our films that we have done, we have provided a book or a study guide. And, you know, if, you know, Judy and Debbie were interested, I mean, you know, anything that they find out, you know, could accompany the film. And I would hope that, you know, other Rotary, you know, places would show the film. I'm trying to get it at Weston, Massachusetts, because I have a friend who is blind now, but he's still part of the Weston Rotary. So, you know, if we could spread it, you know, in many other ways with the film and with, you know, some information, you know, especially with, you know, the newer experimentation with medication, you know, this might be, you know, a resource that you're talking about, Dietrich. And I think, you know, that's usually another step that we take in, you know, because we have, you know, an hour in a film, or this one is a half hour, but other people have, you know, a leisure to read a little more about it. And I think that would be helpful with other Rotary, or, you know, if Judy and Debbie would like to see it go to International Rotary, you know, I have, you know, a little more music added to it. So, you know, I've asked Bobby Clark, who did the final edit, to see if he could, you know, get something, you know, that would make it a little more powerful. I know, you know, we're watching it on Zoom, and, you know, audio will not be the best, but, you know, we had it done at an audio studio in Boston. So, you know, if it's going to be shown, you know, we want it with, you know, all the extra music and with everything. And I could provide that. And then if we have material to add to it, that could be sent, because it's so concrete. And, you know, Debbie and Judy, I know how sad it is sometimes to watch this, because I've seen it several, you know, many times. And, you know, it's horrible sometimes to feel the pain again, but I think it's reassuring that other people can learn from it. And I think that's the point of our, you know, total, you know, mutual investment in this kind of work. You know, so whatever you think, Judy and Debbie.
Could bring some that dealt with this film, that education up to date as to the staff, the resource and ability to detect those. And I think it's really important. If you found this far, I think that there may be a resource that I have in New York, that is the Lower Foundation Summer Drive Discussion. They have all that information. They care about disseminating, and they are funded for all the. They have all the information at their fingertips that we need, and we can put that together. John, I love this idea. Disseminating it through the Rotary is the perfect channel to get out.
Well, in principle, I think we have potentially we have the structure and the organization to disseminate the kind of information that might help addressing, Alzheimer's and people that are worried that they have Alzheimer's. And in the beginning, before Alzheimer's really takes root, there's quite a bit one can do to slow down and the illness and how it progresses. So making the information available as early as possible is very important. Rotary, in principle, has worldwide access on that. If it's a matter of organizing it, if we can get some information in that would be kept updated, it has to be a living thing. It can't be something that gets done once and then that information is in there, never gets changed for a year or so. It would have to be more organized than that, and we could make that available among all the Rotary clubs in the world. For example, we are a member, our club is a member of what's called ADRAC, which is Alzheimer's Dementia Rotary Action Group. And that is centered in Chicago at Rotary headquarters, and makes available to all Rotary clubs in the world information that we would like to make available. So they then can use that within their community, can pass that on. They can pull in the research that takes place all over the world at the different universities. Just this morning, I was listening on YouTube by accident. It was I can understand well.
Dietrich, this is all great information and food for thought. But unfortunately, we have got to end this program. The senior center will be closing soon. So Lucille would just like to make a few last remarks.
Well, first of all, I can't thank Deborah and Judy for sitting in with us. I know one is not too well, but this is quite we appreciate your being here. Tremendous insight. This is the second time I've seen the film, and second time around you see even more. Your mom was a hero as far as I'm concerned. She wanted to hold on to her independence, and I think people in the audience have really picked up on things that they would, especially I want to say, meeting them where they're at. Sometimes we try to give them try to give that person reality. We just have to go with the flow. And I admire your family. The film is beautiful, John. The film is beautiful. We will continue taking this further, certainly with the information you've given us, Dietrich. And if there are any other questions, perhaps between us we can talk. But we're gonna head out now. We're going over to the library, have a coffee, and I can't thank all of you enough for being here today, and the audience. I know it was a very strong, powerful film, but thank you all for being here.
Thank you.